Okay, so first of all, in the bowl, I have all my dry ingredients. For this recipe, it is all-purpose flour, a little bit of sugar, tiny bit of baking powder, and some salt. So I just put it all in the bowl there, measured it out, and I'm just gonna take my hands and just kind of mix that together so all the ingredients are nicely incorporated. All right. Next, I have butter. And this is just unsalted butter. It's nice and cold. That's really important when you're making your pie dough, is that you have nice cold butter. And then this recipe also calls for vegetable shortening. So what we're gonna be doing is cutting in our fat. So in this case, our fat is unsalted butter and vegetable shortening. Some may call for lard or other types of fats, but again, you always kind of want that chilled. So I even kind of chilled my vegetable shortening as well, just to make sure it's nice and cold. And with my butter too, I went ahead and I cut it into smaller cubes, making it easier to cut in to our dry. So with that fat, we're cutting it in. We're basically making it smaller little pea size portions in our dry. So making the butter more so into little pea size sizes. Sorry, lost for words here. So with that, I'm just gonna kind of toss all these little pieces first, breaking them up a little bit. Now you can do this in a mixer. If you have a stand mixer at home, you can certainly do it that way. I find when I'm doing kind of smaller portions with this pie dough, I'm doing 2 9-inch pies. So I doubled the recipe here. Again, you can use your baker's percentages as well. Give you a little bit more accurate. As you can see here, I'm just kind of taking these larger pieces and making them just kind of that pea size. I don't know if you can see that. All right. So I'm just going to continue that with my hands. Now going back, if you have a stand mixer, you can absolutely use that. You would use the paddle attachment. Put your dry in the bowl, give it a mix just on real low because you don't want all that flour popping out of your bowl. Add your butter, and then again, just on low, start mixing it, and that paddle is going to do basically what my hands are doing. It's just kind of cutting the butter in. And the more you do that, you're going to start to see your flour even kind of change color. It's going to kind of have a very light yellow color from that butter being cut into it. In some pie doughs, it wants you to have kind of larger chunks of butter. And in others, in a mealie, what you're going to do with that butter is really kind of almost rub it into the flour. But for this one, I kind of want to keep those a little bit larger chunks, those piece sizes, as well as a little bit of rubbing that butter in. All right, so I'm about halfway there. Now I'm gonna add my vegetable shortening and continue the process. And this is where I'm gonna start to probably speed up the video a little bit, so you don't have to sit here and watch me cut this in. Okay, so you can see here, the dough is, or not the dough. All right, so you can see here, I still have a few little large chunks. That's mostly that vegetable shortening, but it's looking pretty crumbly, almost like a cobbler here, all right? If I were to keep going, this is gonna start to form a dough, but I don't want it to be quite a dough yet. So next, I'm adding nice cold water. So I had this in the fridge. First I added ice and then just measured out the portion I needed. And this also has just a little bit of apple cider vinegar, which kind of tenderizes the dough. So I'm just gonna pour that in. Now, I just wanna gently kind of incorporate this. As you notice, I'm just kind of mushing it between my hands here. Just very gently, because we don't want to overwork that flour. If you overwork your flour, you're going to have kind of a pretty tough pie dough. And with our pie dough, we want it nice and flaky and tender. You see how that's just coming together? Everything's getting saturated. have any dry spots there. All right. If I press there, you can still kind of see those larger butter chunks in there. That's what I'm looking for. So now I've got my pie dough together, and I'm going to wrap this up and put it in the refrigerator overnight, because today is Friday. I need these pies for Sunday, so I'm kind of getting a little bit of a jump start on it. Okay, to wrap my pie dough up, I'm just going to take a piece of plastic wrap, take my finished dough here, and notice how I kind of have this flattened out a little bit. And the reason I do that, I'm going to press it down even more to about 1 inch or so thickness. Is so when it's chilled and I take it out, I just have to leave it out for about 5 minutes or so before I can roll it out, because I want to roll it out while it's still pretty chilled. You don't want to work with a warm dough. So this does twofold. It will, by flattening it out this way, number one, it's going to chill faster, but number two, it's going to be easier for me to roll out versus if I had just a big ball of dough. So with your pie doughs or any dough that you're going to be rolling out, you always want to flatten it out a little bit in between your plastic. All right. And you can see here, you can kind of see almost that marbling and some of those lovely pea-size butter in there. Hopefully you can see with that lighting. All right, and next video we'll show how to roll your pie dough out. All right, so I took my pie dough out of the refrigerator and I let it just sit for about 5 minutes, just to take a little bit of that chill off. So now I'm gonna roll it out. As you can see here, I kind of have it's actually called a fondant mat. I use it when I'm rolling out doughs or fondant on my countertop, because I have tiles on my countertop, so those kind of make an impression on the dough. So I just use a mat instead, so I don't get those little grooves when I'm rolling out my dough. So just a little bit of flour so it doesn't stick, but you can do this directly on your countertop if you've got a smooth countertop. And then to roll it out, I'm really not going to use much pressure here. Just going to kind of go back and forth a few times and then turn it about 1/4 of the way, making sure it doesn't stick. And this will also help me to get a nice even consistency here. You can even see here in the dough all my little butter pats. All right, turn again. And with this one, I'm making a 9-inch pie. And I kind of use my hand too, just to kind of feel all the way around to see where maybe I'm thick or thinner. So I make sure that I have a nice even evenness to my dough. And I'm trying to keep it in as round of a shape as possible. Making sure it doesn't stick. Again, I'm not adding much pressure here. Just the weight of the rolling pin is really all I need. Use just a little bit more flour for the top here. Also, when I'm lifting up on the dough, like this here, that's also relaxing the gluten. So if you find that when you're rolling out your pie dough and it keeps kind of snapping back on you, that means you've worked the dough too much. The gluten now has become kind of tight. So in that case, what I would do, if it's snapping back on me too much, I would just chill it in the refrigerator, just wrap this in plastic again, let that gluten relax, and then come back to it about 10 minutes later. And kind of feeling where I might be a little thick or thin. And I want just about a 1/4 inch thickness on my dough. So I'm looking pretty good here right now, and I'm ready to put it into the pan. All right. So I have my pie tin here. I'm just using a disposable one because I'm bringing it to a friend's house. Now to transfer that, I'm just going to gently roll the dough up on the rolling pin. Gently lift up. Whoops. And roll it back down. All right. I'm just going to straighten this up a little bit. I'm just going to press gently so it gets up onto the sides here. All right. Now, if you notice here, I'm a little bit short, but that's okay. I can just use, what I usually use too is just my kitchen scissors just to kind of trim up a little bit. You can use a little paring knife as well. But anything, it's just a little bit too much overhang, but we're looking pretty good here. And I can always kind of use this scrap too to kind of patch that up a little bit. See, not everything goes perfect in the kitchen, right? All right, so from here, I'm going to take this edge and tuck it under. All right, just kind of the edge of the pie pan here. All right, now I want to go back and crimp. So I just kind of use my 2 fingers here and another one here just to kind of make those little indents. Nothing fancy. You start to get that nice little crimping all the way around. Voila. So now I'm going to put this back into the refrigerator and let it chill up for probably about 15 minutes. And then this pie I'm going to blind bake because again, I'm making a lemon meringue pie, so I need the pie shell itself to be baked before I can put my custard in. So while this is chilling, I will preheat my oven to about 350. And then I'll show you how to line it to blind bake it.